I was recording an episode of the Prometheus shot last week about the week before, about Carl Jung uh, and Carl Jung's significance as a creator, his work as great work, and the aspects of creativity and great imagination and great influence in his work. And this was an opportunity to reflect on some of the most influential aspects of Carl Jung's work. Now it's huge, but most influential aspects that are relevant to work on the Atlas of Worldly Wisdom and the general direction of Prometheus. And to me, Carl Jung is as I mentioned, is a personal hero, is a great figure in modern thought in general, and I believe he has influenced my thinking deeply on different dimensions, particularly things related to the archetypes, the collective unconscious, understanding the deeper hidden dimensions of culture. And Carl Jung's work carries sometimes mystical or mystical like aspects. And Freud explicitly says this, and this was probably one of the reasons that they had the parting of ways that they did have. But I was after recording the episode, I was particularly interested in exploring a little bit further two particular aspects, two sides or concepts that are very relevant to a number of concepts within the Atlas of Worldly Wisdom. And I wanted to just record a few thoughts about them quickly. These two are the idea of integration and the idea of the shadow. Um, and this idea of integration refers to in the psychology literature, uh, Erikson, Freud, Jung, and many others postulate that our psychological makeup contains different elements. In Freud's case, it's the ego, the superego, and the id. In Jung's case, it's the ego, or what he calls the self. You know, these things have different names, but sometimes they mean similar things. What he calls the self, the anima or the animus, the persona, and the shadow. And Jung talks about the integration, talking about the need to integrate all these different aspects to be healthy. You know, this is the direction of life. This is how we can achieve self-realization. Is when we see all these different components in our personality, and we can connect them, we can integrate them in ways that will make sense, but will also cause a sense of calm, a sense of acceptance, a sense of achievement in our lives. And this is very important, and it is at the core of the work that I've tried to do in the Atlas of Worldly Wisdom. Now, I wasn't particularly thinking of Jung at the time, but as I redid the research, which is something I do with the Prometheus shot, I take this deep dive into some creator or some aspect for a week or so, reading a lot about their life, their personality, their work, and so on. And as I did this, I rediscovered some of these writings on integration, which weren't consciously, to use to use Jung's language, weren't consciously on my mind when I worked on the Atlas of Worldly Wisdom. But I can see how they're all related now. So the Atlas of Worldly Wisdom have this central framework, the awareness, intent, creativeness, triple helix, and the central thesis there is that it is an ongoing work that moves towards integration. Worldly wisdom being able to move towards your great work. In order to do that, you have to integrate different things. And here, each of the three spirals in the awareness, intent, creativeness, triple spiral, is itself an integration. So when we talk about awareness, I say that awareness is the integration of knowledge. And integration here, in the sense, not in the simple sense of a sum, but a more self-conscious sense, similar to the integral function in calculus. It is something that adds all the history and builds something else out of it. So in this sense, awareness is an integration of knowledge. And this means that there are particular aspects of knowledge, a particular attitude towards knowledge, that once we have it for a certain period of time, this will lead to this state of awareness, which itself is not a fixed thing. It is a process, and this is why it's a helix. It's always moving. Uh, Intent is the integration of planning and plans, and creativeness is the integration of actions. And so, in each of these three spirals within the triple spiral, each of them is an integration. But also, this is very important, you move towards your great work the more the three are integrated together. So your awareness, which means the integration of your knowledge, and your intent, which is the integration of your plans, which includes vision, detailed planning, seeing the future, resources, mobilizing resources, etc., etc., and creativeness, are all integrated together, moving in the same direction. The things that you are intellectually interested in, the things you are aware of, the things you know of, should go hand in hand or reflect your vision for the future, your your resources, the resources you assume you have, your plans, your attitude towards risk. And all of these should be related to your daily habits, to what you do on a daily basis, to your discipline, to your deliberate practice, to your the small acts that you do every day that are integrated and come together to become your great work. So each of the spirals is an integration. An integration of knowledge is the first, an integration of plans is the second, and an integration of actions is the third. But then we have an integration of all three. And I guess in this sense, the Atlas itself is a reflection of this Jungian idea of integration. And in order to reach this state of self-realization, of achievement, you have to pass through the gate of integration, integrating the different aspects of your personality. And here, as I was doing this research, I was again intrigued and interested in the idea of the shadow, which was very interesting. I've read about it before, but for some reason I didn't try before to consciously apply the concept of active imagination to the shadow, to my own personal shadow, as an experiment. So what is this shadow? Well, it's the component of the self, Jung says. So this is not my interpretation. Well, it is, but let's go with what Jung said. So these are the aspects of your personality that are repressed and hidden, right? You have certain aspects of your personality that you repress or you hide because you believe they are harmful or improper or somehow wrong, mistaken, damaging. And basically your shadow is the thing you do not wish to be, is the thing you do not wish to become. You can see your shadow in the things that you fear to be. You can see it in your criticism of others, right? Your criticism of others reflects certain aspects of your personality that you reject in a sense, and so you project that. And and I was inspired personally after rereading some of these things to try to explore my own shadow, and here I discovered a couple of interesting things. So how you would use active imagination is a separate discussion. Jung talks about that, but the idea is to consciously try to pursue some of these ideas. You ask yourself, what do I fear the most? And you start seeing these different images about your life, and they are not very clear, right? They are approximate, to use the fuzzy on the dark side terminology. They are approximate thoughts. They are not clear. They are tainted by certain things from identity or partial understanding. But once you start seeing them, you can pursue them further. So I fear this thing. Okay, why do I fear it? What is so fearsome about it? And I'm talking from personal experience. It gets more and more uncomfortable the deeper you go. It's a very interesting process. So I fear this thing. I hate this thing. You can ask yourself, what do I hate about myself? What are aspects of myself that I really hate? You can imagine someone who is very critical yet has complete visibility of your personality. And this was one of the exercises I went through. So some very critical person who is able somehow to see through you, what would they say? What are the negative things that they would say about you? This is how you will start discovering the shadow. And these things get uncomfortable the more you think about them. But there is something very interesting that happens, and which also Jung talks about. He says, well, you have to meet your shadow. You have to explore it. And that's interesting, because once you see it, it stops being a shadow anymore, right? So there is this integration, because once you see it, you bring it into the light, and now the shadow is more integrated. You will never integrate the whole thing, because there are always uh, deeper and deeper things to explore. But this is what happens gradually. So you ask yourself, what do I fear? Start pursuing these ideas. What do I hate the most about myself? Why? You keep asking why, and as you do that, you explore more and more of the shadow, and starts being uncomfortable and scary a little bit, and you feel that you are going into the void in a sense. But after a while, it is very soothing, because you see these scary things, these monsters dissolving. You see well, the irrational side of it. And I guess, in a sense, you can't completely attribute this to rationality. It's a deeper sense of acceptance and wonder and awe at some greatness. And perhaps this is where the feeling of Jung's mysticism comes into the picture. So again, here, back to integration, this process of trying to explore the shadow through active imagination, trying to look at, what do I fear in general in life? What are the most scary situations I can imagine myself in? What do I hate the most about myself? What is the most despicable thing about me? If some very critical person was looking at me, and he had complete powers of vision to see transparently, to see through me, what would they say? And then you start working with these answers. To start being uncomfortable, but then more and more gets uncovered, and things move from the shadow, from the darkness to the light, into a bigger integration. And as I said, eventually what happens is these things become a little bit more comfortable, and there is a sense of calm that comes through it. So these were a couple of ideas on integration, integrating these different aspects, other aspects of the personality, which are not as exciting or adventurous as the exploration of the shadow, include the animus and the persona, the mask that we put in front of ourselves and in front of society. But for now, I just thought I'd record these couple of ideas on integration and how they relate to practical wisdom and to our daily life, our daily work, in a sense, as we go on accumulating knowledge about the self, knowledge about the world, and trying to give deeper meaning to our everyday work, and how it relates to our sense of self discovery and discovery of the world. Thanks.